Right, we're live that meeting.
Good evening and welcome to Environment Services on the 4th of June 2025. Thank you to everyone watching online, thank you to the members in the room and also to the officers that are gathered to introduce various items being discussed this evening. Firstly, we've got some procedural points, very important moving into the new council year. So, first item is confirmation of the chairman of the Environment Services Committee. So members are asked to confirm the election of the chairman of the Environment Services Committee agreed at full council on 14th of May 2025. And the officer recommendation is that the committee confirm the election of the chairman of the Environment Services Committee. So, I don't proceed on this. This is an awkward one.
I'm happy to propose that we agree the decision made by full council.
Nikki?
Section.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Toff. Would anyone like any further discussion? So, if you want to. I feel really awkward about this item. In which case, we'll go to the vote. So, all those in favour of the proposal,
Oh, hang on.
and that's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll be carrying on as chair of this committee. Thank you very much indeed. The second item this evening, again a bit procedural moving into the new council year, is the election of the vice chair for Environment and Services Committee. Do we have any nominations?
Can I nominate Jill Taylor?
Certainly can. Would anyone like to second that nomination? Other Taylor, Councillor Thomas Taylor, just for real confusion on the scenario. Okay, are there any other nominations for the role of vice chair? Okay, anyone like to bring up any further points? Okay, in which case we shall move to the vote. So all those in favour of Jill Taylor, Councillor Jill Taylor becoming vice chair, please raise your hands. And again, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Jill Taylor, please come and join us at the front. For the benefit of anyone watching online, 2 Councillor Taylors in the team.
Just in case.
Settled in?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Wonderful.
I'm good.
Okay, so moving on to item 3 of this evening's agenda, which is the apologies for absence. According to my notes, apologies have been received from Councillor Weller, who is substituted by Councillor Thomas Taylor. Thank you for joining us this evening. Are we aware of any other apologies or substitutions? I think that's it, isn't it? Perfect. Good attendance this evening. So members are asked to approve the apologies and substitutions. So we'll have a show of hands to show the approval or not. So all those in favour of approving the apologies and substitutions.
Point of order, who's proposed and second?
I shall propose them. You happy to second?
Yeah, I'll
Seconded
second.
by new vice chair, Councillor Jill Taylor. Sorry, quite right, Tim. So all those in favour of approving the apologies and substitutions. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. I'm not aware of any from my notes, but have we had any declarations of interest pre-notified?
I've been pre-notified.
No. Are there any that members would like to raise at this point? Councillor Hope.
Yeah, I should declare an interest if I'm allowed to ask the question under council questions. I did email it in. I know it was late, so it's whether or not you will be willing to take.
No, a response has been sent through to you in the last half hour. Oh. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were we? Laptop issues. Item 5, minutes of the last meeting. So this is to approve the minutes of the last 2 meetings held on the 23rd of April, and also I believe it was the extraordinary meeting that was held on the 21st of May, as a true and accurate record. So members are asked to agree those minutes, all the things we've just said, and that they are signed as such. So I am happy to propose those.
Can I just comment?
You can.
Is it possible to take these separately? Because I was present for the 23rd of April, so quite happy to approve those, but I wasn't present on the 21st of May. So I don't feel I can approve those, I wasn't there.
Okay, fair enough. I think that seems reasonable. So let's go with the 23rd of April, which was the last sort of scheduled in environment services. So 23rd of April, 2025. I'm happy to propose the minutes as a true and accurate record. Is anyone happy to second that? Councillor O'Leary, thank you very much. All those in favour? It's unanimous. And then we'll move on to the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 21st of May 2025. Again, we're looking to show whether we believe they are a true and accurate record. Again, I'm happy to propose those minutes as a true and accurate record. Is anyone happy to second? Councillor Atkinson, thank you very much. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? So all in favour, apart from 2 abstentions. So that is carried. Thank you very much. So councillor questions next. Yeah, okay. So I don't think we have any fully notified long in advance, but I know councillor Hope has sent one in today and the assistant town clerk has indicated that she's happy to receive that. So councillor Hope.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, was there a declaration of interest?
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. I will just say for clarity and as a declaration of interest, I belong to multiple charity organisations that possibly could benefit from my question if it goes ahead and through policy. But it is a non-pecuniary interest as I personally couldn't benefit. My question was in relation to the free advertising that Weymouth Town Council got as part of the contract for the new digital advertising boards. And the purpose of that was primarily for the town council to send out its own internal messages, advertising events organised by the town council, Monday night fireworks, etc., etc. But I know under the old drums, many community organisations obviously were also able to get free advertising within the drums if there was sufficient space near an event or they had a key message or something. And I know I was hoping that this would also be incorporated within the new way forward with the digital screens. So my question is, will the council be producing a policy for the allocation time on the digital advertising boards for use of community groups, charities, organisations and event organisers? The second part of the question is whether or not the council will conduct a review on how previous Weymouth-based organisations who use the drums, such as the No Fort, have been impacted in the change, in particular increased charging, and look at what support we can now offer as a town council.
So in accordance with Standing Order 31, obviously 1 clear day's notice, so I haven't had a chance to prepare a statement because I've literally come from another meeting. But what I'm happy to do is circulate a response within the next week, working with officers and get some across to you in response to all members of the Environment Services Committee.
Thank you very much.
Any follow-up or?
No, I just presume that would be the answer. Like I said,
Yeah.
it was late and I'm hoping that the answer would be that paper would be voted for one of the vacancies.
Thank you very much. Okay, so item 7, public questions. We haven't received any, and I don't think we have any members of the public in the room with us this evening. So we'll move straight on to item 8, which is the update and renewal of the bench policy for 2025 to 2030. And Ben Heath is going to introduce the report for us. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is the update renewal of the bench policy 25 to 2030. Purpose of the report is to update the current bench policy and renew the policy for 25-30. The reason for doing that now is that there's a number of areas in the existing policy that are quite ambiguous, and over the last year there's been a few difficult cases where people have sponsorship agreements and officers have had to resolve some quite sort of unique instances related to those sort of issues around the policy where there's not been quite tight enough to make it easy to follow and easy to sort of for officers to go back with. So the new sort of policy would have clear and easy to follow for both officers and members of the public, and it would make it robust in terms of administering that policy and the scheme. Some key policy amendments, so putting a date on the front of the policy so it's clear when the policy runs over, Obviously, if there's any updates within that period, they would come back through committee for approval. One of the key things is that there would be an officer bench panel, minimum of 3 officers with the amenities manager leading that panel. Any application that comes in would, as it does now, go through ward councillors in the first instance to get support for the location or the situation of the bench. And then the panel would consider all the relevant parts of the application and then make an assessment and a judgment on that bench and the request. That decision would be final, so it wouldn't need to come back through committee, but obviously communicated to ward councillors and the applicant as to what that decision is and why that was made. There'd be an annual bench review, which would obviously consider all the stock we have within that bench sort of policy and make sure that they're managed in the correct way. Contacting the sponsor to make it clear when applications are made that it's the person putting the application in, it's their responsibility to keep officers and the council up to date with any contact information. And therefore officers can obviously make good means to communicate with them if there's any changes or any need to. But it is, if those aren't kept up to date, those benches could be agreements terminated and those locations re-sponsored if that communication can't be made. Items that can be left around or on the bench, again, to tighten it up, to make it really clear when somebody's taking out a sponsorship on what is acceptable and what's not and how that will be managed. And that then brings me to the recommendation is to the committee to approve the new bench policy 25 to 2030.
Thank you very much, Ben. So, is there anyone that would like to ask any questions or make comment on this officer report? The policy. Councillor Hope. Councillor Atkins.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm glad to see the policies being reviewed. I've seen a couple of circumstances myself where the process is sort of broken, so it's obvious that it does need reviewing. First of all, just a bit of feedback on the policy. I think it would benefit massively of a clear process flow. Okay, it makes it easier for members of the public to follow rather than pages of text, and it would summarise it a lot easier. So it'd be good to see a process flow just put in maybe as an appendix to make it visually thin. The other thing I've got a reservation about, and I don't know this is a change from where we were to where we're going with it. Why do we need a panel? Surely the policy should be clear enough for the designated member of staff to follow. Why does it need? It either fits the policy and can be done. If that's the answer, the sponsorship's coming in, it's got no cost to the council, put the application in with Dorset. If it's our land, even quicker, but if it's highways, the application in highways, they approve it, we then install it. Sponsorship costs cover the costs. That was the idea, break even. Why do we need a panel of 3 officers, 3 salaries to follow the process?
Yeah, to come back on that.
Yeah. So with a sponsorship or a sponsorship of a new bench, that is fairly straightforward. I'd say probably the panel is there in terms of some of the existing benches that might be not the recycled materials of the new benches, so maybe old wooden benches, whether we've got resource, whether we've got any benches that we've managed to be refurbished that we're holding in stock that can easily replace, or we haven't got that resource. So it's just about making a judgment on whether that bench needs replacing, whether it's the right thing to replace it. Is it a resource that we've got that wouldn't cost the council any more money? And obviously, if they were the benches that aren't being sponsored, there isn't that income just to simply replace the bench, because it's whether we've got the resource there or not. So it's just having more than one person that might make that judgment. It's having a panel so we can discuss that. It wouldn't take up masses of officer time. It wouldn't cost a huge amount in terms of, we've got to set a big, hour or more aside. It would just be about working through that and sense checking across 3 officers, recording that feedback and then making that decision and communicating.
Thank you very much. Councillor Atkins.
Yeah, mine just for clarification, really. I have a friend, dead friend, and I sit on his bench sometimes. And how long do those plaques, how long are they? Is that what you mean by sponsors? How long do those plaques stay there?
So a sponsorship agreement is for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, so the price and everything at the bench and whatever those costs are will be current at that time of buying the benches in and everything. That covers the cost of the plaque and obviously attaching it, getting it all signed up and everything. And then at the end of 10 years, that we go back to the sponsor and ask if they would like another period of 10 years and so on and so forth.
And is there a possibility, if that didn't happen, could the plaques be retained somewhere in the area? Because they're quite nice memorial for people, even if, you know, like the one I'm thinking of, maybe his wife might be dead in 10 years.
Right.
So therefore she won't renew it. So, you know, they have to go, or could they go to a special place somewhere along Green Hills where they all come together?
Yeah, we haven't got a place where they all go, and what we'd probably do is if the like, because normally there's another contact on the sponsorship form, so there would be maybe a daughter or son or a relative. So yeah, if they didn't want it, the plaque could go to them, and and obviously they can retain that plaque.
That's a Jill said.
Thank you very much. I think it's a brilliant piece of work. I've got a couple of questions. I've got an observation and a couple of questions. The observation is, when people approach us, when we put benches on the highway, we haven't always got the facilities to cut the grass around them. And I've seen benches around with grass that high. And I think it needs to be made clear to the residents that we're not responsible for grass cutting in the area. Because if I was for a memorial bench and saw it overgrown, I'd be quite upset. So we either need to think about something to do about that, or basically just make it clear to people. I just wanted to sort of drill a little bit more into one that you're thinking of changing about the bunches of flowers with the real flowers on and not plastic. Totally on board with that. But in the new policy, it says that you're going to leave flowers on there for 7 days and then remove them. Does that mean we're going to have staff out on a Sunday looking, because you're actually really restricted about your 7 days? And, you know, I just wonder, can that be softened slightly to make it more doable for officers, basically? And with regards to the plastic flowers, just a thought, who actually owns them if they're tied onto a bench? Because some of these wreaths are probably quite expensive, even though they're plastic and we don't want them and we've made it quite clear. But a friend who, I'm just thinking of a scenario where a friend wants to tie something onto a bench and they're not aware that the policy says no plastic. You know, I'm just wondering who actually owns them.
As in what's attached.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the 7 days, so yes, we could reword that slightly to make it slightly softer, because obviously, like you say, we haven't got the resource to be constantly walking around benches to remove. So we could look at that. What we're trying to say is that we would want real flowers or wreaths attached, and when they deteriorate, which is likely to be certainly within 2 weeks, they would be gone over from what their original state would be. So that's what we're trying to communicate within that. So we could maybe look at trying to reword that slightly. In terms of the items that are attached, they're obviously the possessions of the people that are attaching them. And it's something I think we would, once this, if approved by the committee, we would circulate that to all current bench holders, just to make them clear that there has been an update on the policy. So it's clear, and that might be something that we highlight in terms of to make it clear. And I think that's one of the problems with the existing policy, is that it's a bit ambiguous in terms of what is and isn't or could be flexed, or even though we know what we're trying to say, it's the wording that doesn't make it clear. So I think it's about people understanding what we will allow or what is acceptable in terms of what they can attach. And that's why with the policy, when it goes out before somebody signs up, they're given a copy and sort of know what the parameters of the scheme are. And obviously, if they don't agree with that, then we wouldn't want them to sign up. That's how we want to manage the scheme.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I'm just coming back. I'm just wondering then, should we have an internal policy that we will hold these things for a certain length of time before disposing of them? I'm just thinking, yeah, for a small child comes along, there's a teddy off his granddad,
Mhm.
yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
You know,
that
not
would
just
be
take them off
acceptable,
and chuck
that we
them in.
could add something that we would hold it for a certain amount of
Yeah,
days.
hold it for, I don't know, 28 days or whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will come to you in just a second, Councillor Oakham. What I was talking to the assistant town clerk about is, I think we've had some quite sensible suggestions, also quite easily implemented suggestions. So I was just trying to ascertain whether that needs to go through as an amendment, or whether it's something officers can take away and we proceed with the recommendation written. Or would happen no procedure.
I feel that we could do it and include it within the recommendation, so then you're all happy that we are going to go away and implement it, so. We'd include a flow chart within the, add a flow chart within the appendix. We're clear around the highway crossings, that within there, identifying the highways, we're responsible for passing around those. 7 days, then you can change the wording around, wording regarding the roofs and flowers. With the,
It was about the amount of days that items were left on there and obviously making it clear that what is acceptable and what's not, so
yeah,
it's
so
just making
clear what's
that
acceptable, what's
clear
not
before it's
acceptable,
on.
and also storage of items removed.
For a set period of time. Is that something you'd be able to get on the recommendation screen? Councillor Hope, just while the assistant town clerk is frantically typing quite a lot onto that. Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for I'm just coming back. I've just been thinking about the response I had on the panel, and I was under the impression, obviously, when the town council had stock of its own benches, but when we took over the stock of the Dorset Council benches, we were given a considerable sum of money to make sure that they were brought back up to a good standard for us to take on before we did. So I'm just wondering actually how often we are in a position that we find out the bench is beyond repair, and that's where the decision of the board panel would need to come in. Because I actually think that's not very often. And it's led on to a second question I've got is there anywhere in the agreement sponsorship benches that if a bench is, say, set fire to or destroyed or damaged by vandalism, what are our obligations to replace it if somebody has paid for a 10-year agreement for that bench? Is that within the policy, and how is that covered?
Yeah, come back to that then.
Yeah, so the agreement that's not down to the town council. So if it's a bench is destroyed, it isn't, we haven't got to replace it through council money to replace that back into that position. It's there in terms of the policy that would be outside of the council's remit to have to do that. So that is in the policy. Yeah.
Okay, were there any other points you want to pick up on there? Outside?
No, I'm just still quite struggling with this panel. I don't.
Yeah, so coming back to what you said about the
Frequency.
amounts, yeah, the frequency, it's not going to be something like every week we're going through like 20 benches and taking a big chunk of time. It would be as and when needed. It's just a process there. It's not down to one person making a decision on a bench. They would like sort of sense check through sort of 3 officers, going through the small amount of information that there would be. So it wouldn't take a huge amount of officer time, and it wouldn't be like every week that we'd be making a panel meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you. Going back to the question about if a bench is damaged or something, I find it a bit hard to take in. If someone pays for a bench, say I paid for a bench this year, the next year it gets smashed up or set on fire, you're telling me that it's not the council's job to then replace said bench. I mean, I've had benches in my ward set on fire or trashed in the past, and ones that aren't got a plaque on their council ones and they have been replaced. Is there no insurance on them? They don't come under any form of insurance.
Not as far as I know. I can check that with the deputy town clerk, whether it comes under our insurance as an asset, but as far as I know, it wouldn't be covered under insurance. In terms of replacing the bench.
We would have to check our insurance
Yes,
policies.
yes, check.
They are listed as assets, but I'm not sure how they
I just think it's best, I just think it's slightly unfair that if I paid for a plaque or something and it's destroyed next year, that I then got to do another one, and then I think, well, what's the point?
Can you remind us again how much how much a bench actually costs?
I don't know what the cost is off the top of my head, actually. I've got it on, I don't know whether it's on the.
Do you mean cost of the bench or cost of the flag?
No, cost of the bench.
Cost of the sponsorship.
Yeah, it's the sponsorship agreement. I can't remember what the actual figure is off the top of my head. Yeah, it's not in the policy, yeah, because obviously, and it's, obviously the policy will run over a number of years, so it's. The costings potentially will change across that, depending on what the cost of the asset is.
I have to admit, I'm a bit unsure at that point as well, because I'm thinking it's something I thought about doing, frankly, for my parents, and I'd be really quite grieved, I think. I'd put that in place in memory of my parents, and then, as I say, it disappears.
So can I ask?
Sorry, just quickly, what would your suggestion be on this point? Is it something that's come up before? Is this a new concept, or is it squared away as far as officers are concerned?
Yeah, so it's not something, as far as I know, we've had in while we've been, well, certainly in the town, like as in now, the town council scheme with this is not something I'm aware that there's been a sponsored bench that has been destroyed so that they paid and lost a whole sort of scheme. And yeah, they paid for it. So as far as I know, there's never been one like that that's happened. Like I said, we can check the insurance to see if that happened, whether that would be paid out under insurance and the council would be able to replace. Yeah, and obviously I've not been dealing with the bench scheme very long, and it's nothing in there that would indicate that that's been an issue and has caused somebody that situation before.
I agree, it kind of just seems like a gaping gap in the policy. While I'm pondering that one, Councillor Atkinson.
Well, it was only, am I right in assuming then there's only as many benches as there are sponsors? It seemed the answer would be to have a bench that's not sponsored, and then if someone gets further down, the track goes on to that establishment.
So there's a mixture of bench stock we've got, obviously, some that we've had in sort of open spaces that aren't sponsored, but could be. So that was where we might have somebody identifies a bench in a location where they add a plaque. So that would obviously be one element that's in the policy. There might be a new location where a sponsored bench goes in, which is again different. There's highway benches that come across from our transfer from Dorset Council. So there's a number of differences in the types of bench stock we have.
But could you normally move a plaque onto another bench? That's what I'm saying.
Well,
You'd be unlikely that they were burnt down.
You could do if the sponsor was happy that bench matched the location or what they were happy with. So you could do that.
I'm just going to bring in Councillor Taylor, she indicated just a moment ago with a suggestion, which I think is quite strong and good.
Can I just make a suggestion on this, that officers are asked to look at whether benches are covered on the insurance policy? And if they're not, can we put a request from this committee to F&G to look at, or either creating a reserve for this eventuality, or to get them covered by insurance? Yeah, because we haven't got the figures here, we can't approve funding anyway on this committee. And it won't be within our own budgets. So can we just bounce it to F&G for them to consider the question?
So, Councillor Taylor, on the screen above, I've tried to capture the different elements that everybody's spoken about, the packages with the amendments. And as part of it, there's a second, the amendments are there for the policy, and the second element of the resolution will be ample officers review insurance to ascertain the benches, the council's responsibility or the sponsor's responsibility in case of damage. If not, we refer to F&G discussion.
Yeah.
Councillor Leary.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, my opinion is if the bench is destroyed, I think we should replace it. Personally.
I'm doing nothing.
Yeah. I'm happy with the recommendation.
Okay, so we've got the recommendation plus all the amendments and additions, as you can see up on screen in the red Right, well.
Yeah. Is that a quick look?
Bad time. Sorry, we just had a message flash up on the screen for those who can't see it. So we've got the recommendations plus the various points of discussion for officers to move away. And sort of clear up and clarify or add to the policy. I think the feeling in the room seems to be that we're sort of generally happy with that. So I'm happy to propose the recommendation as it now appears on screen. Quite a bit for Ben to go away and make those improvements or adjustments that come out of the discussion. Is anyone happy to second that? Councillor O'Leary. Any further discussion, comments?
Just to add that according to our resort manager, the benches cost was £1,800,
Yeah, just had a very quick look at the invoices.
£4,800, £2,000 bench.
John, councillor.
Sorry, that's the cost for the sponsor for the 10 years, or that's the cost to us?
That's the 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know if that's plus or minus that.
drives into it and then.
I think it's around £2,000, so that figure is about right in terms of the 10 years scheme.
Right. We're at a point where we're ready to vote. So as I said, I proposed, Councillor O'Leary has seconded as written up on the screen, taking in lots of the points in the discussion. All those in favour? All those against? And then the abstentions. So one abstention. Okay, thank you very much, Ben. Plenty to chew on there. That's right. Thank you very much. Right, on to the deluxe item for the evening, which is item 9, the beach sauna, to be introduced by Will Holmes. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. This report presents the outcomes of the beach sauna trial, which was delivered over the winter period and outlines recommendation for future provision. The trial took place south of the Pier Bandstand from November to February and was well received by both the public and stakeholders. It successfully increased footfall during the quieter months and supports the council's aim to promote health, well-being and year-round activity on the seafront. From a climate and ecological emergency perspective, any future operator will be required through the tender process to use locally sourced, sustainable certified firewood that meets specific environmental standards. This will be a clear stipulation within the tender to ensure low ecological impact and responsible fuel use. The report recommends that members approve going out to a tender for a 5-year licence with a break clause in year 3 for the operation of a mobile wood-fired sauna at the site. And planning has been agreed for this location. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. Having read it, and I assume other members have, I think it's a really good report, clarifies where we are, talks about the outcomes of what's gone before, mentions the planning that's in place, talks about sort of lease lengths, break clauses. Thank you very much, Will, because I think that makes it sort of a much easier report to discuss and move forward with. I'm actually going to kick off straight away by saying that I'm very happy to propose this. So I will go there straight away. I think it's a really, really good amenity on the beach. Diversifies our offer, operates in a period of the year when it might be quieter and brings people down to our beloved seafront. So I think it's a very, very good report, a very welcome addition. And with some sort of good clarifications in the report to move it forward in a successful way. So I'm very happy to propose the recommendation as written. Is there anyone willing to step in? Councillor Taylor just beat you to it. So that's Councillor Jill Taylor. Is there anyone that would like to discuss, comment? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. You're gonna now wish you can go straight into a proposal, because I think we have to move into the realms of amendments rather than
I'm
discussion.
fine with that, it's the process.
But that's okay. Mine actually though is just a question that obviously, unfortunately, the usual changing facility for people with additional needs that's normally on the beach isn't currently there. Unfortunately, it was stolen during the shutdown period. Really, really bad news and unfortunate that that's happened. But what my question was actually going to be was, is there a reason this couldn't operate 12 months of the year? Is there not a demand from a customer point for it to be there in the summer? And could we not move it over slightly and still have the facility of the changing facilities when that is re-established and have these guys there as well for 12 months.
With regards to 12 months, the trial operator over the winter, I don't think we'd particularly look to want to have it there through the summer period because obviously it's too old, yeah. It was meant with the beaches, how they've got their business set up is they've got the trial company, they've got watercraft stuff in the summer, saunas in the winter. That's how they run their business. I'm not saying that somebody else would want to come in and do that, but they were quite, their busiest parts with saunas are in the winter. And as for moving it over slightly, that would have to require us to go back through planning on that. As it's an exact location of where it is. And the reason that it was put there was for ease of access coming on because the pond slopes down as it goes to Plymouth.
Thank you very much. Councillor Todd.
I'd just like to say that I have used the sauna and it was, and I think the operator would probably would agree with me. It's used a lot by sea swimmers because you go in for a cold swim and you come out and you have a hot sauna and you go in for a cold swim. It wouldn't work in the summer. That's it's sort of like, you know, it's a winter, it's a very Scandinavian thing which we've adopted, which is really good. So,
Fantastic, nice to hear some positive feedback as well on the amenities, that's great. Any further comments, Councillor Jill Taylor?
Well, just ask, I think it's brilliant report and very much supportive of it. I've got health and safety in my background and I'm just wondering, as part of the tender, do we look at their health and safety documentation?
Oh.
And what is our health and safety responsibilities for these sort of things? If they're on our land and we're licensing them and all that sort of thing, we must have a legal responsibility somewhere.
Yeah, so the trial operator had everything ticked all the boxes from our health and safety point of view. And within the license, the onus will be on them from it. But yeah, we will check all of their documents when it goes through tender, and it will be a question in the tender process.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comment? Okay, so I proposed it as written in the report, seconded by Councillor Jill Taylor. So I think at this point we'll move to the vote. All those in favour? Is unanimous. Thank you very much. So that passed. Thank you very much, Will. Stay where you are, because you're up next. So that was carried. So item 9 was carried. Item 10, beach operations building. It's really, really important, really prime location. So excited to hear from Will on this one again.
Thank you, Chair. This report presents the outcome of the tender process for the lease of the southern room in the beach operations building on Weymouth Beach. It recommends that councillors agree to award the lease to the Weymouth Surf Life Saving Club, with officers to seek full council approval to seal a 3-year lease. The club provides a sea safety education and life-saving training for a wide range in the local community and works closely with the RNLI. Their proposal scored strongly on social benefit and year-round use, which were a key criteria in the evaluation. The opportunity was promoted widely and one compliant bid was received. The financial offer remains confidential due to the commercial sensitivity and is detailed in Appendix C. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, got the report. It's a brilliant club. I was a community lifeguard as a teenager and then spent many an hour down there helping them. It's invaluable in terms of the safety element as well at the beach and teaching particularly our young people how to engage safely with water sports, not just on our gloriously lovely low wave, low energy beach, but actually they take those skills beyond that setting and use them elsewhere. So on that basis, again, I'm very, very happy to propose the recommendation as provided by the officer. Would anyone be happy to second that at this stage? So Hayton, thank you very much. Anyone like to make any points, comments, questions?
You feeling all right, Ron?
Okay, in which case, I think we'll go straight to the vote. So all those in favour? Again, that is unanimous. Thank you very much, committee. So item 10 is carried. Thank you very much, Will, for both contributions there. Okay. Item 11. This is with reference to No Gardens, the King Charles III England Coast Path, and Assistant Town Clerk Charmaine Denny is going to introduce.
We've recently been approached by Natural England, who have a duty under the Marine and Coastal Access Act to align the trail around the coast of England, known as the King Charles III England Coast Path. Back in 2012, just before the Olympics, first part of the trail opened here in Waynes Bay at the Node, and it would appear that there has been some administration errors over recent years, and this is to ensure that it's the land as part of the coastal path is known as what it should be known as, so that the strip across the No Gardens be dictated as coastal margin of officers to complete necessary paperwork. So it's more than administration. Usually outstanding work that's come over from the Gardens Council days.
Okay, so thank you for the introduction. Members, you've obviously had sight of the written report in advance as well. So would anyone like to make a comment? Or pose any questions on this particular item? You can see some people glancing at maps. Is there anyone that would like to come in? Councillor Atkinson.
Yeah, just clarification, I just want, what happens to the path going southwest after this area, because you have to go around by houses and leave the coast. Is there any chance of the pathway along the coast being restored between the end of Newton Cove and Sansford Castle?
So that is out the remit of Weymouth Town Council, and we haven't had any discussions with Natural England regarding that. However, I can ask them that question outside of the committee process to get an update for you.
Thank you very much. Any further points of discussion? In which case, as chair, I'll propose this as the officer's recommendation. Anyone like to second? Councillor Atkinson, thank you very much. All those in favour? That is unanimous again. Thank you very much, committee. So that is carried. That was item 11 carried. Number 12, big item. So this is the Ironman 70.3 agreement. And again, Assistant Town Clerk Charmaine Denny will introduce.
So since 2016, Dorset has held the Weymouth 70.3 Ironman event. The agreement that we're discussing this evening is an agreement, it's a three-way agreement between ourselves, Dorset Council and the Ironman event organisers. Originally, as a council in 2020, we signed a 3-year agreement that expired in 23, and since then, the three organisations have been working on a 1-year rolling agreement. This new agreement we're proposing would be a 3-year agreement, and it would provide Ironman with the security and would also save officer time. At the moment, every year, keep doing it on a yearly basis, we keep having to bring it back to committee, all council gets sealed, etc. All the details within the event are in there, and it also details what we as a host venue would receive. So as a host venue, we do give some officer time, and we allow free use of areas of our beach and also areas of Logmore. And as a host venue, you would be able to use their event name and logo. There's information in there on how we use web and the media logos, etc. I think it's really important to discuss or mention how it has a positive economic impact on the town, and this isn't necessarily something that we're discussing the agreement tonight, not necessarily the event itself, but previously we have had the event organisers give member briefings and to discuss its impact with you. So before you this evening, we are asking for you to agree to the council recommendation that the committee recommends the full council to proceed and seal the host venue agreement 2026 as detailed, the 2028 as detailed in the report, and it is detailed as a confidential appendix.
Thank you very much. So thank you for the intro. Obviously the report's quite thorough. It talks about economic benefits for the town in excess of 2.3 million. And Charmaine's already, Assistant Town Clerk has already discussed how this would save officer time having that longevity of agreement. Would anyone else like to comment or ask any questions? Councillor O'Leary?
Yeah, this, this affects Preston, which is my county ward. And does affect them for a day or whatever, but the benefits do outweigh the disruption caused, and what I've found over the years, I've been a councillor now, which is 6 years, that every year the communication improves. So I get less and less complaints every year from residents, so yeah, I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Dickinson.
Well, I live on the Preston Road and I fully support this because quite frankly, the disruption is minimal, really. And if I can't put myself out for one day and bring such a good thing to the town, for the full show, don't you think? So I fully support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I've supported this every year. Obviously, they have improved as an organisation year on year. And it does fit within our new corporate strategies around supporting events that bring economic benefit to the town. The one question I have got, again, slight interest from an organisation that does hire council land for events and we pay, is what would the cost be to the event organiser if we were to start charging them for the use of our land? Because I could be wrong, but I think they have to pay for the car parks that they use. We don't allocate them under our 3 days. So what would the cost be if we did start charging them for the use of our land? Because as much as it is a great event for the town, it is a commercial outfit. There are people there making money, good money off of this. And I'm just wondering, realistically, if we were to charge them for the space on the beach and bits of the promenade they use, what would be the cost and is it unreasonable?
I don't have those figures to hand. I'm looking at your shoulder. You got the figures out?
Commercial hire rate for events is off the top of my head about £508 per day. And it's half price for build and breakdown days.
So how long are they on site from Thursday?
Usually roughly a week cycle. So it could be in the region of about £3,000.
Forgive me, was it yourself, Councillor Atkinson? Yeah, Councillor Atkinson.
I was asked to bring this point to the meeting by Councillor Weller, who couldn't be here tonight, and that is, has been a concern by residents to her that, the plan of where people can go when they come out of their houses, the marshals perhaps aren't very familiar with the area, or there's been more likely been a last minute change that the residents don't know about, and then they're told they can't go into work, they've been told they can go. So can we make sure that there aren't any last minute changes to the plans of where people can walk and where they can't walk this year?
Thank you. Going back to the point on charging, not charging area of discussion, within the report, there is a section, and please correct me if I misinterpret this, but it reads to me as if ordinarily host towns or cities would be charged between £50,000 and £70,000. They don't charge us that. We provide, in response to that, certain use of facilities and help within our setup with them. My view is that one, we've got the tangible benefit of in excess of 2.3 million as outlined in the report. We've got the intangible benefits as well. So the inspiration for young people in the area, without doubt, is enormous. And you see that in the kids. We've got local charities, something particularly like the Will Mackiness Trust. I spoke with one of their sort of lead organisers over the last few days. They make about £700 out of this. They get young people involved stewarding, running water, drink stations. I'd be very wary of charging them what is in effect relative to the sums being discussed in the report, very small amounts. When this gives the town enormous exposure, positive exposure, in a fantastic event that fits a lot of the aims of the council. I think the way we've currently got this set up is incredibly positive for the town, and I wouldn't want to.
Jeopardise.
Wouldn't want to jeopardise that for a small sum. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I know I totally agree, and I did say, it is that, but I think it's that level of clarity, and I think my only request being this goes to full council for ceiling, if I'm correct, and remember from previous years, that actually we review the impact assessment, because at the moment it's got financial and it says that the event has a positive economic impact on the local economy, we then have economic development, same statement, and I feel that there's a crossover there. The financial is more the financial impact to the council. So that statement should be changed, I think, to reflect that this actually has the loss of what we would charge other organisers, and that it is in conflict with our fees and charges and the events policy. And I just think that's for clarity, because it's something I'm pushing at the moment. Obviously, my last question, the extraordinary meeting of the toilets, was again that level of fairity on what event organisers are offered and facilitised under the events policy. And it's just probably flagging up another thing that we need to look at these fees and charges. Either we want to support events like this, we want to support economic growth and development and charities, and if that's the case, we look at removing the fees and charges completely, or I don't think we can pick and choose. So that'd be my only request, that we actually change the impact assessment to truly reflect the financial view before this goes to full council.
Just on that point, we wouldn't necessarily have other organisations giving us that money on that weekend though either. So it is.
All right, well, thanks for that. I'm just gonna.
Sorry, yeah, Chairman's right. We don't necessarily know that that fee would come in from another event on that weekend, so not really sure around that. Do you have any comment on how that's been written up?
We can certainly change the impact assessment on full council, we change it and review it anyway, so that's, I think, doesn't need to be part of the recommendation. But as you have said, we could charge them, however, if we charge them X amount, £3,000, as a resort manager said, you know, are we going to jeopardise that and then have to start contribute towards host fee?
Yeah. So,
Can I just clarify? I'm not
Hold
saying
on a
that we
second.
should.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Councillor Hope.
Right, should clarify that, because I think I was misinterpreting. I'm not saying we should charge them, but I think it's important that we as a committee fully recognise that we are not following our internal processes, which is in our gift to move away from. But this decision is away from our events and festivals policy and the fees and charges that are aligned within there. And I just think it's the clarity within the report that we are all aware of that and that we take this decision based on that knowledge. And that's what I'm saying, that amendment should be made before it goes to full council, to be clear.
So would that be some sort of statement along the lines of, we would ordinarily bring in roughly £3,000 from this, but we get a benefit between £50,000 and £70,000 to counteract that?
The recommendation should be that we recognise that this is away from the events and festival policy, fees and charges. However, the council, as part of the recommendation, waives those fees. And I think that just ties everything together and makes it crystal clear. But I think that if we are willing to move away from fees and charges for certain events, then we probably need to look at the events and festival policy.
I would certainly want that to make it very clear that they're also effectively waiving a far more significant fee.
That is in the impact assessment already.
I think who was first?
Councillor Taylor.
Oh, okay, councillor Jill Taylor first.
No, she was saying that I could do it.
All right.
And we don't want to lose this, do we? And quite frankly, I think, you know, we're fudging this a little bit because it must bring a huge amount of money into the town. And with all the controversy that's going on with our guest houses at the moment and the rents they're having to pay, and now we're sort of saying, oh, well, we might, you know, charge the Ironman, and then there's somebody gonna go and then they lose that as well. I just think you've got to be a bit careful here, a little bit careful.
Thank you, I very much agree. Sorry, councillor Jill Taylor. You next?
Yeah, I'm just sort of listening to this and wondering whether we can flip it in a different direction. Basically, effectively what we're doing is giving a donation of £3,000 to them. And that then gives us the publicity for it and sort of changes the whole dynamics of what we're talking about. We can't do that, I'll come back to what we're here as a committee to do. We can't do that as a committee, but we could either move it to F&G, it's got to go to full council anyway, So if it was sort of reworded that we are supporting this by giving them 3,000 or whatever the amount would work out for. It then gives a lot more positive light on what we're doing as a council. And it also evens it up between other things like we're donating to, you know, the toilets is another example. We're not cutting the fees, we're actually giving them a donation because we're not getting in that funding. It's just a different way of looking at it, but doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I think, I don't think what councillor Hope is saying is, or we should charge him. I think he's making merely a procedural point, which I fully understand. I just think, yeah, I fully agree. I think it does need to be noted in there. We are waiving the usual fee, and that is something that should be recognised. I don't want to say any charge, it's just literally the process should be included as part of the process. It would be on everything else. Because, you know, one rule for one and one for another. So I fully support what you're saying in regards to the process.
So, thank you, councillor O'Leary, and I think we're getting a feeling across the room.
Yeah.
Councillor Hope, feeling probably we don't need to amend this one, do we? We haven't had a proposal yet. So would you like to add anything up there?
I think, I think the assistant town clerk's captured the fact that the impact assessment we amended to reflect our views here tonight. And I'm just looking at the recommendation now on the screen, the council recommends. We should probably need to say on there and waivers the fee. I don't know, we can't put the exact fee in here tonight because we haven't got it here, but waivers the usual land fee in support of the event.
I was gonna say we couldn't quote the usual fee anyway, because each year they change over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
Councillor Gilton?
Okay, I think what I'm going to say is probably better done as a PID, but I just thought I'd float it tonight just to see, you know, sort of what other members think about it. One thing I've thought of this, because we had Challenge before this, Challenge Weymouth before this, then we've had Ironman, and it's really well embedded. It's what we do, it's an annual event here, we're doing it for another 3 years. But what else do we get outside of the event? So we get people coming down for training. They come down, they use our facilities. I went to the Weymouth 2040 meeting this morning, and it really got me thinking about how we could actually use this sort of event to publicise Weymouth. Why can't we have Weymouth as being the town to come to for training, for triathlons, make it a year-round event, basically? A lot of it, why can't we do things like having a training event, a Ironman training event in sort of April time, when they're starting to go into the season for it? As I say, I think it would be a PID. I think it would be something that Dorset Council may want to consider. But certainly with my public health hat on, I think it's something we could consider for that. But it just sort of needs a bit more thinking outside the box. A lot of it would just be about marketing. But a lot of it would be really simple things that we could do, because just thinking off the top of my head, if we've got the same area, so the same circuit that we do for the cycling, we can actually put permanent stuff on the road that says that this is the route. You know, it wouldn't cost us a lot. So I just wondered whether anyone's got any views on that. I'll probably put it in as a bid, but just sort of taking this forward a little bit. And it's not really for tonight, it's just a comment because we're talking about the Ironman.
Well, I think it's a very valid point and definitely something to explore, but as you said, it kind of falls outside the recommendation. There are other areas that do that. There's lots of places that do marathons, they might do a 10K, I don't know, 4 months out, and
Yeah,
build it up to a half marathon and then so on and so forth. So it's definitely something that athletes, professional and amateur would be interested in, because it works elsewhere. So yeah, definitely something I think.
but it also encourage that healthier lifestyle, more activity, that sort of thing, which is what we're quite keen to do in Dorset.
Yeah, on a wider note on that, I'm quite a keen cyclist and we do underuse resources that we have for that. There's something called the Petit Mont routes,
Yeah.
the small English Channel cycle route essentially, which I've done most of, and it goes round to Normandy and things. There's lots we can be doing to promote this, and I think that's a bigger story to create about the local area and how we enhance that, so definitely something to move forward with. Councillor Topham.
I was just going to say what you said, but I didn't know this idea. Yeah, it's about the shoulder months. That's what this town
Yes.
is missing. That's what that's what our hoteliers want. They want something at the beginning of the year that's like the Ironman to start the season off and don't have to wait for Easter.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, sort of training camp between Christmas and late bank holiday or something like that. This was the.
It also aligns with our corporate priorities, there's been a prosperous town where, around events happen. We'll be managing our assets a bit better because of obviously, utilising them. And it also aligns with our seafront strategy, where we said that we're going to encourage outdoor swimming and so forth. So it aligns with a lot of the council's policies and strategies.
So have I got to do it? Okay.
I look forward to reading it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, back to this evening's proceedings. Councillor Hope, did you want to propose that? No, I'll propose it. I'm happy to propose that. I think it's an excellent event. I think we've had a good discussion around it. We talked about how things are improving year on year in terms of communication. We've heard from residents who live nearby and the minimal disruption. We've heard about the massive economic benefits to the town, inspiration to those young and old to become more active. So incredibly positive thing. And on a procedural point, we've had the slight addition to the original recommendation. So on that basis, I'm happy to propose. Anyone happy to second? Councillor Toft? Any further points? Okay, all those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, committee. So item 12 is carried. Information items. Quite a few in-depth ones on the report this evening, and I did note one of them even warranted an echo article today, my information items about Green Hill Gym, outdoor gym item. So it is definitely worth reading through those. Councillor questions regarding information items should be submitted in advance of the meeting. Members are just asked to note the information items. So, go on, Councillor Hope.
That's my rule, Chair, that I brought in. I don't think it actually fits in standing orders, so I'm gonna break it. And I'm just wondering, actually, on that exact one, where has this concept of the outdoor gym at Green Hill come from? Is it in the seafront master plan?
Yeah, it's in the seafront strategy.
And it would probably be useful, just as a point on these information items, just link where that is.
It does in the last line.
It does, so does it say that? The actual, so, do apologies, yeah.
All right, on that note, let's bring the meeting to an end. Thank you very much, one and all.